Okay, we will recite the opening prayers.
Jumbo Jumbe Dishin Shebo Jumbo Yambo Robe Sange Reba Dan Chazo Dewar Shebo Jiden Jemba Jiwo Dube Palo Jubo Lana Mepa Lana Mena Jumbo Sange Chumbe Peje Wa Shaya Tuba Lo Chaze Lo Judo Jazo Je Jumbo Jumbe Dishin Shebo Jumbo Yambo Robe Sange Reba Dan Chazo Demba Dewar Shebo Jiden Jemba Jiwo Dube Palo Jubo Lana Mepa Lana Mena Jumbo Sange Chumbe Peje Wa Shaya Tuba Lo Chaze Lo Judo Jazo Je Jumbo Jumbe Dishin Jumbo Yambo Robe Sange Reba Dan Chazo Demba Dewar Jiden Jemba Jiwo Dube Palo Jubo Lana Mepa Lana Mena Jumbo Sange Chumbe Peje Wa Shaya Tuba Lo Chaze Lo Judo Jazo Je Kante kanye so jilang ten sa jen yelang gongpa dunmur ne nende na choje zung te se kewa jela chang nanda gong choto su zong wa yi xie jia so se ke rumbu taba jiten zuna la me wa gongpo junye jela chang senjo denpa jime dawe jo se do jawa jela chang Regana Siva Zumaji Nyame Kinjin Jala Jada Obodu Jendemba Tamje Kimbe Tumbo Sona Yenden Yasuji Dejin Jala Jada Nabe Jajawa Gewe Nyezon Leruji Jidu Dana Jujuba Shiju Jala Jada Rone Jobe Layandun Laba Dala Shinge Damba Yundende Gindu Layan Chazalo Wachiam Leja Jewa Punzun Zoba Jia Rangi Sene Yonzu Dene Sanje Temaya Karma Rade Marmeda Gyuma Silpa Shuvurda Milan Lodan Tindamu Dije Juna Dinada Sana Di Tamji Sibai Gopan Dune Genji Radu Nada Jiwe Labru Sibe Tole
To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Suganta, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shadow. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Your immaculate 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Papa Kunjo Sula Jha Zelo Dige Dagi Toba Dijina Jumende Gyagoga Jago Bumbo Rila Gilo Kindu Jumbo Da Jaju Sembe Kindu Jumbo Da Ta Chitu Shute Te Chumde De Zomona Wanshi Chije Dagi Dinge Dila Nyumbo Shusu Yan Li Te Chanju Semba Semba Jumbo Baba Jere Wanju Shiraje Varu Jumbo Sama Jumbo Nila number Tashi Kumbo Ngabo De Dala Yara Shinti Tomo number Tao Tene Sanji Tedan Demba Jare Bu Janju Semba Semba Jumbo Baba Jere Wanju Tige Jemme So Rije Bu Gala La Shirage Paru Do Jumbo Samo Jeba Chubo Deba De Dala Paracha Tige Jemme Janju Semba Semba Jumbo Baba Jere Wanju Ki Tedan Demba Shari Gade Bola Tige Jemme So Shari Bu Rige Bu Mongala Shirage Paru Samo Cheba Chuba Deba De Dita Number Tower Jate Pumbo Ngabo De Tagyang Raji Tromba Namba Yanda Parachesu Tau Bao Tomba Ni Suzu Sule Tomba Ni Shemai Tomba Ni Legan Su Shemai Teshindo Soa Dan Dushe Dan Number Sheba Nam Tomba O Shari De Tawa Tomba Ni La Sume Soa Me Dushe Number Sheba Me Nawa Me Jime Sheme Lume Yime Sume Jame Jime Rume Jame Chume Lume Ije Kame Bane Ije Kame Ije Number Shebe Kange Bado Yame Do Mare Pa Seba Me Bashi Me Kashi Sebe Bardo Yame Do Teshindo Dunga Wada Kuju Wada Gopada Lame Ishime Toba Me Madoba Yame Do Charibu Nenawana Janju Zemba Nantoba Mebe Shir Shirage Varudu Jemba Lati Tenje Nede Sumla Jeba Mejim Jaba Mede Chinjelo Le Shindu Tene Nyangele Debe Taru Chindu Duzundu Namba Shube Sange Damte Kan Shirage Varudu Jemba Latene Lana Meba Yanda Banzobe Janju Dungobar Zobar Sange Zote Dawana Shirage Varudu Jembenga Riba Jembenga Lana Mebenga Minyamba Danyabenga Tonga Tamje Rabu Shivar Jebenga Mizubena Nembar Shivar Jade Shirage Varudu Jembenga Mebade Ada Gate Para Sangate Podiyo Sharibu Chanju Zemba Zemba Jembo Deda Shirage Varudu Jembo Zamola Lapar Chau Dene Chumdende Tingi Zendele Chanju Zemba Jembo Baba Jere Wanjula Lesu Shechawa Jene Lesu Riji Tede Shindo Tede Shinde Chita Juke Temba Shindo Shirake Paru Duchenko Samola Chepa Jate Tishi Shaba Namjan Jesu Yirango Chonde Digi Jaka Sene Zedan Demba Share Date Anju Samba Jembo Baba Jere Wanju Tan Tamche Tan Tempe Kuru Deda Dan Hada Mita Lama Tesa Jebe Jide Yirande Jonde Deji Sumbala Ngombara To.
Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, How should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these, all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these, all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. O Shariputra, and this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One rose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Buddhas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond. And today, Thursday, we resume our lesson in the way of the Bodhisattva. Chapter 1 of the way of the Bodhisattva concerns the benefits of bodhicitta. Chapter 2, the means by which one formally makes one's commitment to the mind of enlightenment through ritual, formally, how it is done, and how the meditation is extended. These two chapters have been completed. Subject of one mind, some of the subject Chidantam not dead in your the pages and subject Hashin and carries the G turned on, surely turn set. And the G turned in all Chanju send me Dobalin Sudan, and Doba Sung Sudan to get it, did not G turned on, and it's Shungi turned in and Kalma Jerwata Mushita and Jason and the Sunda G or response. excuse the interpreter's mistake. The second chapter is where we are now. Now, in chapter 2, or rather, generally speaking, the mind of enlightenment through this text is described generally. The description is of how the mind of enlightenment is taken up formally, how the formal commitment is taken through ritual. This is one topic, and the general topic. Now, the particular topic, the second, is the topic or the subject matter of the text itself, which has preliminary practices, the actual practice, and concluding practice.
도시 찾아다 가진아주 류 지난 주주 코랑이 시주 잠바 장주쌤 아니 조화다 무시 조세 세단 지겨와디 아니 장주쌤 마제버 제버집에 탑들 조화체 장주쌤 무시다 마제버 제얘기 남들라 무시체 다제니 아니 제라야 돼 송화체 주쌤 권도 배워 제야 되라 디기 무시체 아니 주도 뭐 가진 중국 조선 대리지 시사로 왔지단 준juk 지시가도 다른데 루니바 시도 잡아야 다다 직다 조문 조선 시야디 아니 다 장주 조화디 조화 직시 아니 무시디 장주선 정야게 타는데 아니 죽도야 개와선디 장주선디 더 디과샤바다 개와선은 조화디기 또 손은 제와디 뭐야 대대지래 분이 가가래 손이지
가르쳐서래. 지니
가진 지시에 가들어 종을 조선 직시해라 와. 단단 누니바 시도 종 조화도 뭐지 조세당 지여. 어디니 이 누니바기 그런 냠내 지단 지여 와. 어디를 당부 원도 직제 아니 아디네 뭐지 직제 아니 줄라. 겨와야 되지 직송 나로는 그런 레전 나로는 되지 여래서.
Now, whereas generally speaking, presentation of the mind of enlightenment may entail the presentation of how to formally take one's commitments through ritual, and also the presentation may be done through preliminary practice, the actual practice, and concluding practices. Here, as we look to the second chapter has its own presentation of these three aspects. Now, the preliminary practice is generally for the development of the mind of enlightenment where it has yet to arise. The actual practice itself, the increase or promotion of it where it has developed, and concluding rites are for the preservation and protection of the mind of enlightenment as it has arisen. Now, here we have in the second chapter, we have the preliminary rites, and we have the actual practice in the middle, the way in which one is to practice and develop the mind of enlightenment. And then the third section is concerned with dedicating the virtue of the practices of confession and other practices.
단다 네가서 루니바시에 가서 조화시당 답베 조화당 아니 생기셈 조화스다 조화들 나로 sab지 니체 조화스 코란 직세 아니 생기셈 조 자주셈 조화스나 지금 자주셈 조화 니체 다 조화들 다 가르스나 다 랑기 규타버 쳐봤어 자주셈 생기셈 조화 쳐발라 다보 랑기 규라 심 정토야 탑시 지도라 랑기 규타버 쳐봤어 다 랑기 규타버 쳐봤어 디나라 아니 단단 가상어도 다 제가 야라 뒤디 랑기 규타버 야라 나도 스티시 경우를 해서
마스디 아니 팀만라니 디틱 아니 소수 규다버 쳐봤더니 아니 신장와 신유장와
신dü지 로장와
신등이 로장와 And in this chapter 2 of the way of the Bodhisattva, the preliminary practices are practices for the purification of one's own mind, and especially useful are the 7 branch offerings as a means for purifying one's own mind. And then the second step, the second aspect of the second chapter is the way to train in the mind of enlightenment.
도시 다랑기 규타버 쳐봤어야 돼. 다랑기 규타버 쳐봤어. 당하나도 지당아도 미기 시규세야 돼. 규세야 돼. 수수기다 셈디 배 장마 거기다 티마 거기 되게서 봐 답을 쳐봐달라. 아니 랑이 규 타버 제바세와 제가 디나싱 알아 셈제기 규지 아니 왜 셰기 타도 자주 셈 정하이나다 셰기 셈 정하스나 규래 깨버 제발라 담보라 규라 아니 랑이 규지 자주 셈 깨발라 팔도 줘야겠다 소남 소사고야 디바장고야 저러와 어디 랑이 규 타고 왔어야 돼 어딜 자고 해서
Now, in the practices for purifying one's own mind, it is the purification or the improvement of one's own character, the disposition of one's mind to eliminate any of the stains or the defilements that temporarily obscure the mind. And this is for the purpose of later, as the second stage, in the second stage, of developing the mind of enlightenment itself, an altruistic intention in the mind. So in order to do this, in order to lay the groundwork for successfully training in bodhicitta, one must accumulate the merit sufficient for this, as well as purify the mind.
아니 수바 겸도 쳐봐지 아니 시바도 디바 샤봐지 아니 나와도 제수이라고 그거는 최주고로 고 꾸어서 아니 냥을면 더 소화돼 봐서 아니 뭐 소남 와서 어디 당가지 집어래서
And I have presented to you these 7 branches of the 7 branch offering, and they are the same as I showed to you. First offering, second prostration, third refuge, fourth confession, fifth rejoicing, sixth requesting the teaching and requesting the teacher not to depart into paranirvana, and 7 dedication.
도시다 네 잡아다 네 디용기 나네 강보다 아주 처배고라다 아주 계산 시대로 가도록 제가 처바들라야 아니 처바 지르기 처바 때 맞지 아니 처배 남샤지라도 셔바스 데서 비니어에 손으로.
And so we have begun this first branch of offering, and we began it last week or the week before, and the presentation of offerings goes along general lines first and then in particulars.
다 처배 남자 찌르셔바데 아니 자주 쌤 손에 치돌라 아니 잘 간다를 파게 처바 비유 군조 숨 때려 처바 아니 지당가다 처바 비유가 처바 자주고 쌤 손에 치도 처바 비유고가 땜바디 처바 칠 땜바디 가지고도 sabject 로사 다디네 sabject 니바 처바 치라도 셔바서 처바 치라도 셔바들라 아니 다보 마소에 처바 비유 찍체 아니 랑게 류 처바 비유 니체 아니 로그 바트윈 로그 메베톤 로그 란 피바사지와 로그 트윈 피바사지 아니 디저다 가르는 처바 네버 멤버스 처바도 표현도 균투는 네버 제와 어디에 처바지 아니 라나 메베 처바스 아니 양기 처바스 떼베 처바스 그래 양기 처바스 어디 대신 오 서브젝트 투기어에 손지 처바지라도 표현되나
Non ci sono garisani giume chepa dine ngapati garari ngapa
ngapati dirga lana mebe chobara shibadi chobadi 아주 choba pyejerwa 아니 tutu 가시를 가시면 choba pyeje 유인투니 유투지 되시노
generally considered in its general aspect, an offering, these offerings are intended to facilitate, make possible the adoption of the mind of enlightenment. This is the purpose of making offerings, and one makes offerings to the 3 jewels. And the purpose of these offerings made to the 3 jewels is to ultimately develop the mind of enlightenment. Now, this general aspect of offerings I have concluded, and we look now to the particulars. And the particulars of making offerings are organized according to offerings of materials had in common, as well as offerings of our own body, as well as offerings that are visualized and emanated, and also offerings that are offerings to stabilize and extend any offerings made, and offerings of that which is unsurpassed, and lastly, the sixth form, offerings of melody or verbal offerings.
Oh, to say that was Masun. That was also Masun with Chubas in it, like as another Chuba Pier said, so Casanado. That's done with the Japchar, the Chuba Pier again, the day Chitabu Masun with Chuba Pier Yobatans, and a few good Kundi Kayers, not cousin of Doshi Baj down with that. Kunjo Ting, Donna Yoris Labra. That do thing is the Gibudana, and that any Jigi come with Chuda Medoda. And it's in which I saw that woman so much of viewer chow senior, such the dotting is in Gibonalayan, that under the woman so with the pure ina, and it's on chow Yobatan, sonum Yebek Kum, the dish town your resonance. Thing is a Gibutan.
Now, the materials, the substances that are offered, when they're offered of common goods, that which is had in common, finds its support. These forms of offering find their scriptural support, their advantages, in especially the Samadhi Raja Sutra. And here it is said that one may make offerings of precious substances, water and jewels and pearls and the like. And when one does this, and one makes offerings of these things that are had in common, rather than anything personally had, that these forms of offering are the greatest of all.
Oh, to say that, because in Chuba Pier, another Tanga Jay, dinner that so kind of Jerson, another Ombungagi, and you Pejutang to a cheek, they tongue to a Kangamos mayors. That in a Ombunga, Sharmatunyaki, another peggy. Tabishingam, that the Chubapia, the Hazan Mango, the most Mingme Yomares, and that has a member of those meals on it. That was Bezina Shedan, Momban and Shedan Chebaina, and Chanta Minin, and then Mamma by Lodo said a lot of them, which Manguch Tayo. And Tidan, and it does rangi, Marsas, Mamma, Java Mamma, that Sarjogi. Gewadinzo, and Chevapayers, and Tandasa Shimbazo, Chevapayers, and Mahobala Saber, you were the young, and a Kunjo Chevena to say Pia, or the Zugangata Chevel Pia, Tawumasu with Ze Pia, and the Manguyo Resons.
These offerings of materials had in common, substances had in common, are offered for the enjoyment of the five faculties. They are general, they are for the enjoyment of these faculties, but they are also immeasurable. They can take on an aspect of being beyond measure and also being incomprehensible, because we can also make offerings of pure lands, Buddha fields, where there are all sorts of natural resources, but they are incomprehensible to us, but they're part of the pure land. And so we've heard of the crop that requires no tillage, and this is found in the northern continent of unpleasant sound. And so these are forms of offering that are incomprehensible or cannot be visualized per se. And they resemble those offerings that can be made to the three jewels of virtues that we have accumulated, virtues we are presently accumulating, as well as virtues to come.
Oh, to see that on that Chuba, any that Pia Zedigi, and it's say Yuba, and that on the say Yuba, and it's a pocket tap go tabjad in Mayimba. And Chubapia said to be Nanga count, Nanga Kazu Chimbu in the Tinasing, but Chimbu the Mangoda. The say the Suma to ya, the leg Chubagi, Pugu yours, and the Chubapia di, and the Kadik had this Putuguresana, and look, men, Suzu Semba Tone, Pia, there was Pia di, Tanga Yuba, say Yuba Yina Yang, 쌤기 매백 원 땡이지나 땡이지 또 필요로 땡이지 매년도 아니 쌤 매바전 땡이들이 필요요 전 아니 쌤기 매백이 돈 아니 배 나가 강화다 배 배는 매도 필요는 매도 배 나가 강화 배 상계의 전주서 뭐 갑자기 되게 자산 필요야 여봐다 아니 즉 추표는 추대대 나가고 필요고요 어디에 돈 쌤기 돈은 그 300 수수 300 돈 매바 친구chen 표고를 해서 오지
The immeasurable aspect of these offerings allows us to move beyond the finitude of want, lacking very much to offer. We can, with whatever finite material we have, multiply it so that it becomes gigantic and truly vast and unbounded. And then in the mind, incline the mind to the offering of this, which is beyond measure. And how do we do that? But we do it through this process of mental visualization, where the countable we make uncountable. And this is a force, a product of samadhi. And as we engage in this, we think to ourselves, I am offering this extensive and vast offering. If it's a flower that we have, we multiply the flower so that it fills all of space, so that there would be a flower for every one of the innumerable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And if it were water, then it would be water for all of the innumerable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And this we may do mentally.
세상 다들 쌤도 명모톤인데 자치고 필요가 있나? 아니 네 가르치면서 정말 귀하게 누가 소통이 땡기진 주비하게 줄 주비하게 치들라 다들 쌤도 땡기진 매나야 땡기진도 찹사오진 몇번씩 필요가지 아니 되게 몇번씩 필요고 소나무라 때네 아니 정말 땡기진 줄에 필요가지 그래 땡기진 줄에 또는 필요가 존나 아니 정말 땡기진 되게 또 아니 군조도 강가를 최고 모습 필요가 여봐다 아니 배 최백의 표현이 아니 소남 차지를 하나 더 배워 봐도 좀 유튜브 찍기 배 교체는 소남 도구를 해서 오죠.
Now, if one mentally visualizes offerings in this way, this practice becomes cause for ultimately achieving samadhi, a samadhi that will allow one to directly make of offerings, direct offerings to the three jewels and collect all the merit that entails. So by the training in this form of mentally visualized offering, one begins the causal development of a samadhi that will allow one to make direct offerings to the Buddhas.
제가 전에 이번에 그런 빼져나 시험나 시잖아 아니 간다 되게 쳐봐 자치고 fü여 생부터는 fü여가 되게 아니라 소남 자치고 쉬우 토비하게 여러스 토비하 여바디 아니 쳐봐 fü사기 유디 아니 장주고 생 줄라예요 배 시에마도 랑게선 손로 마다니 장주고 생 배 탐지게 된 섬로 다니게 되게 이디 티기 내기 또지 신게 군조고 kinzi nyusum ki nyube topji, ane nganzola sonom chenpo saadira. Sonom chenpo saaba tena teni, ane nganzola ta cheba piyage. Jimam cheba tinba mutuni piyutuwa cheyaga, ane sonom zarang topgire esonga.
With vast offerings of this sort, one achieves the merit that corresponds. And the force of this merit comes from the force of the personages to whom we make these offerings. They are individuals with the mind of enlightenment, upon whose continua the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, has arisen. They have no prejudice or bias for their own ends. They commit themselves to the well-being of others. And by this force, this is the force of the merit of the personages to whom offerings are made. These individuals having omniscience and love and great power, by their strength, one achieves the merit that allows one to continue to make offerings in the future.
다디네 양수 하나들은 남도 수수 남도가 용식이 미리 라는 저번에 배낭 아주 수수 퓨투에 요데 퓨퓨 마투에 퓨 보고 말했어 맞대 내게 남 도바 연구로 와 도바 연구래 아니 디가나다 즉 수술의 예배 제디 아니 야마 비워지 야 신바도 퓨딩에도 지금 아주 되게 생 남도 연구로 와서 뭐 되게 연구를 해대 이나양 아니 말한절로 가제 초밥 퓨야디 군족이 녀버지에 제지고 우여라 군족이 많이나 아니 초밥 퓨니 뭐봐요 말했으나 초밥 퓨에 군족 녀버지에 제지 퓨고서나 한다 랑이 따고 마수에 제디 퓨바이나 아니 따고 송에 제 퓨발레 손은 채워 예배도 건 공만 보여라 루규만 보여라 손으로.
Now this is a connection of cause with effect. It's a causal, there's a natural relationship. But there may be some who have doubts about this, who are dubious, and will wonder if it is the case that these offerings may be mentally generated, and then perhaps it is the case that one shouldn't offer anything actually, and that there's no purpose to actually offering anything. And with this doubt would follow very dissatisfactory practice, for it is in fact an offering becomes an offering when what is done pleases the Buddhas, and when what is done does not please the Buddhas, it doesn't qualify as an offering. And the fact of the matter is that greater than offering one's private belongings, offering these vast resources had in common and mentally visualized is more constructive.
Oh, yeah, 다 근데 아니 다 하나도 뭐스랑로 소소게 너를 롱저 저지 표가 이나양 아니 비디오 잠바 다이 뷰티 투디 잠바 뷰티 가상어들 미셔반나 지지 요 요다 꿀롱고 요다 근데 망고이 전에 아니 랑로 군주 예버 제를 교토야 깔래 당보도 자년 깔래 가고지요 이번에 비디오 잠바 맞아 쳐봐 비디오 다 수수로 땅에 표고래 어디 표야래 강에 가고요 제가 되게 표야기 꿀롱다 요기 토네 예 가다리 쳐봐 자산지 유다고지 차기매버 인디 아니 텔레 다고 마수를 쳐봐도 표가 이나 아니 꿀롱고 요도 내고 말려 가다리 아니 군조 예배 쳐봐 차기로 와서 되게 개변치고 여래서.
When one makes offerings of personal possessions, just as it says in the great stages on the treatise on the great stages of the path to enlightenment, there may be contaminating these offerings, deceitful procurement of the materials themselves, and a deceitful intention. Now, when the actual offerings involve these forms of deceit, then that makes certain that they won't satisfy the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So that is the first point. And the second is, when one makes an offering, one must willingly and sincerely part with that which is offered. And when one is making an offering of one's own belongings, this is made more difficult. So creeping into offerings may be deceit in the procurement of materials, deceit in the intention. But when the offerings are offerings of commonly had resources, these do not creep in.
왜 일단 디나싱 페이지 가서 나도 건도 쉬고 이거 근데 땡이지 유라 연이 땡이지 두 사주 지기 아니 거기 최den도지 아니 배도 삼로 단어 배시 단에 시합제되니 발음제 공부제니 저거도 최den 차단 됐나 공부이나 아니 최den 차단지 신비기 표현 여봐 배 최den지 뭐서 직바제는 상황을 표현 채워 여봐 근데 공
You may remember the example I gave. Should a person who has achieved samadhi visualize the erection of a stupa from the base through the steps up through the cupola, making visually building an entire stupa, to visually do this is of greater merit than would be the actual building with brick a stupa.
That in a Genjaro Kariosnata, then a ranging on Zedi and Zedi Tsayor, or Tse never married, Tse Yor. And in Zedi Young, where that Jubjato Chevena, Jubjape Shupi Tabu K Chagamara today, and the Dig Channel, you Korangi Chanajam, and Kunjo never Zezo go to Mare. In it, today you do that. Log lang ne ani pandapoge chilog je kazu yobatige chagang su log lang ani kunjolo be suzu ta be kunjolo tenge chobatige shero nang sinya pyushaba ina ani semna pandar suzu yu genzu chagang chang gone rang kunjo nyebaje choba chabal ten rang sonam 야첨부터 덮고요. 손은 대왕기 아니 말아도 못하니 아니 자주 쌤 고매다 시행기 달로 자 괜히 고급 차산 등기 차산 그거 차를 해서 오지.
So I shared this last week or the week before. Any offering made of actual material, physical material, has its measure, has its limit, is finite. As well, the material itself cannot be of the most exemplary or highest quality source inevitably as a mere material. More extraordinary is to draw all of the external physical materials conceivable into a mentally visualized offering and employ all those materials in an offering, and as one does so, request that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas enjoy this offering. And when this is the process of making an offering, then all of the conditions are present in one's mind for the offering to be the very sort that delights the Buddhas, and delighting the Buddhas, it will accumulate tremendous merit for the individual. And with that merit, then one will be able to continue to make such extraordinary offerings.
군조를 여버대야 표고는 맞아 지금 수수 제 여버대 표야가 돌아 사무촌에 마땅한 제때 수제 다냐체 아니 즉 거기 치료 수제 표가 있나요 아니 수중으로 수주고 지 선나도 대대대는 그 꾸는 거 오면 걸 즉 손함 거기 손함 싸웠다는 뇌기야 되는데 연구를 해서
It is critical that in an offering, one makes the offering without any possessiveness. If possessiveness arises in the individual making the offering, there is a risk that an individual will take a rebirth as a preta. To make an offering and to be very attached is therefore problematic. And when one makes an offering, and one makes an offering of what one has, but then is very preoccupied with what will happen to it and lingers and remains preoccupied, this reduces the effectiveness of the offering, reduces its ability to garner merit for the individual.
도시 다들 다보면 순간 제 비고바던 표주되게 살았어요. 다들은 류표왔어. 다들 랑기 류표왔어. 다들 류표왔어. 이게 아니 다나서 어떻게 먼저 쉐야 차대서 류표가 되다. 가진 자와요. 다 류표가 자와들라. 아니 거기 들어봐. 계단 대세 남나 다기니 다기 류군 땐도 뷰어키 템버촌은 다니 용셰신 그외 규지 방수 치월기 다니 규지 용수 소외나 신나 메지 semjen 팸버기 뭐지 딜레 양다 다이키 진 디버시야 친지 메제도 어디 디버데서 오 얘들 다기 류표에비다니 다 자와데레 송스
So the purpose behind offerings that are of common goods and how one is to make these sorts of offerings, we conclude here. And we move to verse 8 on page 38, which begins the presentation of making an offering of one's own body. The root verse reads on page 38, verse 8, enlightened ones and all your Bodhisattva heirs, I offer you my body throughout all my lives. Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally, for with devotion I will be your slave.
Oh yeah, that didn't it that 이 강도 당한 조직 피야 산지 예벌 집에 제 수술하다 피어되기 체여를 다시 해서 어디에 제대로 직송자로 다 단다 될 아니 피야다 그래서 수술을 오늘 피에 여바디 수술이 류다 롱지 니여와 어디나네다 류디 아니 군조로 쳐봐 피야 저바 군조 예벌 집에 저바 배시우 자좀 맞는다 수술로 저바 피하게 신 군조 예벌 집에 제 신매 나야다 수술로 피 투버 제바 수술로 어디 랑게 류디어 어디 피고 열에서
Now the limitations of making offerings of what we have when we are so destitute was part of the topic of the preceding verses. That which we have to offer is limited and finite, and that we are more or less so poor was the focus there. Now, what do we have when we have so little? We do have our body and we do have our enjoyments. And so then our body may be the very substance of an offering.
Oh yeah, that piya that rangi beauty because the kondo sheba na shireta kondo beauty and da 군조로 표고요 군조스마다 표고고 열었어다 다 담보 산제르다 대시자단다 배제 리나는 산제를 표해야 산제디 가르나 뒤실이 개와스 뒤실이 개와이다 산제스 산제세 뒤실이 디탄다 치다가 뒤 모두 치다 뒤지 아니 디네 치다 뒤지 뉴몬 뒤지 풍부 뒤지 아니 하이프 뒤스 오 뒤시 좀 봐스 산제 생각하선 산제디 아니네 딱 수술을 만들어 배나 직 보게 섬제나 제가 나지기 동해시 여러 되게 모양이 규디용이 유시디 봐좀 보이다 아니 좀 된데 세다 지금 좀 된데 세 산제 좀 된데 세 지금 대시 결과로서 좀 된데 세고 뒤시디 좀 보이다 좀 보지 뒤시를 개와이다 개와스 아니 저거들 좀 된데 세고 대시 결과로서
The object, the personages to whom one's offering of one's own body are made are as above the three jewels. As before, we make the offering to the three jewels. The offering is made to the Buddha, the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan is so called, for the Bhagavan has overcome the four maras. The four maras are the mara of death, the mara of mental afflictions, the mara of the physical aggregates, the mara of Devaputra. As the Buddha, the Bhagavan, has overcome these four maras, he has gained this name. We and sentient beings are plagued by birth, aging, and death, by the four sufferings that these entail. And the Buddha, the Bhagavan, as he overcame these, is the Bhagavan, overcomer of maras, the Bhagavan who has escaped the influence of the mara.
수수비 치와라 라마메바 마이바 치와라 배 왕토베는 지다도 좀 보세요. 지다도 좀 보세요. 니모도 좀 보세요. 고알에 비겨울렘바 매버 서와인다. 니모도 방보인다. quality Kevalam at the Pambachar. Not Pumbu do the Pamba in the Pumbu do the Panta around the Geva on the other meeting around the Chip Town Chuju in a Tarmajet in a game budget and she was the day gateway another never chatter as Carson, Pumbu to jumps at Gag, Pumbu to jumps at one. And it's chick never seen again. And it's chick you move dog carina to get for a jumps at 5 produce round to never singing chick. That jumbo the carina to get for a jumps out. The jumps at it. And then she never check the Yomara 70 made and Kiaga Nasi to me for a jumps at it that call it to make it higher marathon.
Now, familiarization with these four Mara in particular would be useful. The first, the Mara of death. Death is destroyed. The Bhagavan has destroyed death. And so the Mara of death is overcome. And it is the mental afflictions that force one to compulsorily, without any control, take up a body and take up birth, continued birth. And so with the overcoming of the mental afflictions, which are a Mara, the Buddha too overcomes the Mara of the physical aggregates, for the physical aggregates are compulsorily taken up by the force of the mental afflictions. As the mental afflictions have been overcome by the Bhagavan, so too has the Mara of the physical aggregates. And with the Mara of physical aggregates yet overcome, one necessarily experiences aging, one becomes middle-aged, one gradually becomes old, and one passes away. And this is overcome. The body, the Mara that is the physical aggregates is overcome. And with all of this overcome, the Devaputra, the Mara that are the Devaputra. Devaputra meaning all who are able to, all external things that are able to inflict harm upon one. These too are overcome. All of these, the four Maras, all of these sufferings are once and for all overcome by the Buddha, and so the Buddha is the Bhagavan.
That do she pang but the Sanjay, that dinner Sanjay Tigi said, do she pang bola bed, want to choba. Do she pang bola, do she that under to near Matu Chevatare, can the do she pang bola, want to choba in do. And a call want to chobe and Chanju Samba Namla, Chanju Samba Namda can do good just or that day, the day that's not yet a Chanju Samba. And Tedagita, Jumber Chevi Nubata, Chanju Senda Demba Tedala, and a dog Ludi Ogi is that dog new Pusa or to get a race one.
Tani Janchuk Karisa and Sangi said that's okay, Kichu Karis something.
Oh, that Chanju want to Cheva, Chanju, Chanju and Kanda Chanju Tobalata, Nyawa. Chanju want to Chevala, Nyawa, also. Control that Sanjay Tobe, Poban Tobe, that gave a ching on the Yomarwa. Gave a ching on the Gava ching, that in it gave a touching person, and it was Chanju want to Chingerwa. Or did that with Chanju Sambata, not to be near Sesigiva, Chanado, the Jerry said that Jawa Chambata, Sanju Sambakuno, Sambola, so such a vision, you samba to Yorwa, or the Zola, any dog lute or chief.
The Buddha, the Bhagavan, overcomer of the four Maras, such a personage is the personage to whom offerings are made. And with the Bhagavan too, who has overcome those Maras that inflict harm otherwise. Along with this Buddha, the Bodhisattvas as well, those who have made manifest the mind of enlightenment. Those who, through making manifest the mind of enlightenment, no longer have interminable eons between them and the achievement of enlightenment, but are rather on the cusp of enlightenment. And on the cusp of enlightenment, with the mind of enlightenment manifest in their minds, these are bodhisattvas of the 10th ground, such as Avalokiteshvara and Manju Gosha and Samantabhadra and the likes of these. These, along with the Buddha, are the personages to whom one makes an offering of one's own body and one's own servitude.
Osa ta pyusa dige che ta dige de la ne la ge lu di ur ki ta pyu gi is semba cho de de ta sanje ta cha ju semba nam la da ge lu di shero no ta da ge lu di ni she de ni da ge zu ji is ta ga da semba cho nam da ge yong shi sing sum ba do o dige ta ke san semba cho nam da ge lu di shero ji she ne ni kya zo ta
So the body is made to these personages. One says, enlightened ones and all your Bodhisattva heirs, I offer you my body throughout all my life. Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally. One is making an offering of one's own body to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Enjoy this body, consider me, and protect me as I have made an offering of myself.
Oh, yeah, that's Ludia Putana Karchigi, Putana Karchigores, na? And it's 6 Shibadi. Kubi Chuji Bansu Chivar keys that. Oh, that Ludi Putana and that made Ludi and Kiran Karjini Pus and I Kiran Jawod Jubi and Kiran that under Kiran Bang season of the Corsiro, Yobosiro, Cordo, and 계란이 콜도 아니 지기 계란을 깨고 주기 있 땅에 계란 가르치는 연기 있어 간다 된다도 도시나 어디도 그래서 딱 구조가 랑이 루이드 구조로 표현이 아니 랑이 딱 구조 콜도 또 지기 어디 걔네 지기 그래서
And so with the offering made in this way through these first 3 lines, the 4th line, for with devotion I will be your slave. With the offering of one's body made, then what? The answer here is in the 4th line. For with devotion I will be your slave. What does this mean? But that one has volunteered to be servant, attendant, to be in the retinue, to surround, to be with, to be under the protection of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And under your protection, devoted to you, I will listen to you.
Oh, yeah. That Rangi Ludi Pusaris on top Pusaris, that's Zumare Pujo race. Rangi Ludi, Pusa Pujolo. Takanji, so the Yamichi do some Lojong with Yamichi do. Also, the Mingle Karilan Lud tend to Puala, Hosma Pujola, Pujo, Shadishu to Ludi Puis, Lud tend to Puas. Lojong Yamena, that's it, the Lichia. Just that Rangi Ludi Pujola, Pusa, that Pujo. 가리시 까나네 다른 것도 저거로 와서 배당 가지고 랑디 류디 미셔바질 때서는 미셔바디기 아니 그 가리 표시 단계나 거기 지기로 어떤 하시다 구조를 표사도 아니 다 구조가 가르나나 뒤냥으로 어쨌든 뒤류 류 구조를 표고야 돼 아니 구조가 깔도야 돼 지도라 아니 랑디 류디 표어레스 제가 다 구조가 가르나 그래서 구조가 까나야 돼 아니 다 구조 권한 아니 가르스나 Tirwada, Shenugis, Samba Bashimoto, Randu Sambakina Yamar, Medu Tamata, Kujo Karzanda, Chir Drujo, Ani Pageta, Kata Chir Duveda, Chanju Sam Jula Kiala, Soba, Sony Saba, the Tibachanga, the Otisanji Karo, the Drujo Sungur was the Dubure.
The offering of one's body has been made, and in the context of the mind training, we refer to this as making of one's body an offering of service. This is the phrase used in the mind training. And it means that whatever the instruction, whatever the pronouncement, whatever the directive of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, one must obey, one must be obedient. Just as when one volunteers one's service to another, then one is responsible for being responsive to all that they instruct you to do. And what is it that the Buddhas will instruct one to do? Only that which serves the welfare of others. Unpreoccupied by selfishness, the Buddhas labor for the well-being of others. And so for that reason, all the Buddhas will propound will be to this end. They will instruct others to develop the mind of enlightenment, to accumulate the 2 collections, and to engage in purification. And all of this, as it is pronounced by the Buddhas, one is obligated now to obey.
Penarang, middle, Suine, Pajumo, Gebudo, the Lumbudo, Kota Vaina, and Polopok, Kada Cook bounce Zuvaina, and Cook Kala Yango was. No Cook Karichi, that is Chibura. Sedani Cook Colocota Sadu, and then Kogi, Karishi, but the Rangi Yango was. Or didn't she done also, Kunjo, Karangatuna, Taking out in Yango, Sedan, named the Kunjo, Kala, Kunjo, Manzola. Jala Kisho, and in Janya Jab show, and in Chicken Alaji boy, Nekala Soji, and Kujoka and the Maras. Takunjo Kanaya Karesna, and it's that's how you send Gula Chevore, and it's Shadun Drugure, or the Kanangres, that the Mazu Drugu or that so. Sosa, Chibacham, and it's how you send Gula and it's Sanjay Salad, and Kunjo, Kunjo Kat, or the Drugure.
It is language and a metaphor from an old society in which there are kings and officers, and once one is pressed into the service of a king or an officer, then one is obligated to obey and make good on their service to the individual with the title and the status that they have. And so one must obey a king and an officer when pressed into their service. Here, the Buddha is like this king. Except the Buddha is never petty, saying get this, get that, make me a meal, do this or that. The word of the Buddha that one follows is to develop the mind of enlightenment, to labor after the well-being of others, to accumulate the two collections, develop the mind of enlightenment, proceed to the ground of Buddhahood. This is the intent of the Buddha.
Oh, yeah, that do the Pusad and the Karichigre, Pusan and Karichigre, that big land, and that Dani, 16 about the Dani, Chiji Yons soon and us, and it dies Yons soon and the Karichigre, that called Benamazo, Jewu de la Kota, where and it gave Pokan the Michibu Lumbu in that Yewu in a color Kota, where you say the Karsna, Rangla, and okay, Chongji Maraya, the Kejiraya, Chidula, and Gota Varova, the Yuta Kola, okay, Gota San and Kogita, Rangi Jibali Joba Chigua, Penangangel Joba Chigura, Jibali Joba Chigua, Tinashi, Kunjo, Capchene, and the Karji was not Kunjo got the Pumida, and they gave Gota on the Tane, and Kunjo, San and Karchigres, and it's that big land. See to what seen on Meiji, Simjan Pimber Chase, and it's about quality. Jibali, Jober Chigre, and in Dinashi changes, Suzuki to him, and the Simji Shinji to him, Gruber Cheva, in the younger race, what if that Kevin Shigi or Resmos.
So when the offering is made of one's body, what follows this? The fifth line, or rather the first line of verse 9, for if you will accept me, I will be undaunted by samsara and will act for being's sake. When one is coronated a king or one is made a chief, what follows but that chief or that king begins to protect those in his realm from setbacks, from hardship, and tries to bring them the greatest profit and happiness. Protection from hardship is the purpose of the king, the chief. And so when one has gone to refuge to the Buddha, it is as though the Buddha were made chief or king, and responsible then is the Buddha for what comes in the second line, undaunted by samsara and will act for being's sake. For the Buddha protects from the hardships, or rather the difficulties of samsara, and in addition to this, brings about the well-being of all beings.
산지지 마초백의 심지 요 말레스 지금 다이네 좀 마투박의 심지 연구를 그래서나 네 조마투박의 심지 요구에 가서 나란도 레다 니모고 티바디 레다 니모고 왕이다 네다 니모고 티바디 마타바이나 산지기 카두가 좀 마투 교백이 마투바도 근데 연구해야 돼 아니 가르쳐서 나란도 레다 니모디 파 바 장샤와이나 산지가 좀 겹투고 되면은 뭐 겹투고 말아 제가 근데 이게 다 레다 니모 되게 파 되게 산지가 까도 겹을 제발라 아니 랑기다 레다 니모 되게 세벌 쳐고 와 세벌 제베 치돌라 아니 님부터 없이 냠내데 아니 다 냠슬랑 보고요 레송으로서
For if you will accept me, I will be undaunted by samsara and will act for being's sake. The word of the Buddha, the intent of the Buddha is to protect sentient beings, and there is no sentient being for whom this protection wouldn't spread or wouldn't embrace. However, there are sentient beings that are incorrigible and are not ready to receive the protection of the Buddha. And that is because these individuals are under the full influence of karma and the mental afflictions, making it impossible for the word of the Buddha to be implemented in their minds until karma and the mental afflictions are eliminated, purified. The word of the Buddha and the intent of the Buddha to protect sentient beings cannot occur for these individuals. So it is each individual's responsibility to, in order to secure the protection of the Buddhas, purify and extirpate karma and the mental afflictions. And to this end, one applies the 4 antidotes.
도시 세단다 나라도 디바 군조의 칼라 다 군조의 랑게 류 군조라 그 군조 칼라 얘기 싸나도 캐네 지단에 맞아 왕다 도바마고 슈차도 다 캐네마고 제차라스 캐네 요래 아니 지단에 다 맞아 준주 냠내 지와이나다 랑게 류디 준주 냠내 지도 아니 랑게 류디 군조라 표백이 냠내 제발라 때네 다 군조 칼 지기 군조 칼라 얘기라다 다 제도 때마다 맞아 군조가 맞아 교고를 교부자 뭐 있다 교 투야가 지도라 아니 다 자진 창고야 개체쇼 가르스나 다 자진 창야 니디 대학 자와 들었다 자와 즉 두바도 제바들다 뭐지 딜래 양다 다지지 디버시야 레치 메체도 소다 디 나마도 군조 교 투야게 누가서야다 랑이 시합에 디딜 다야게 탑시 이 못도 없이 스타 디나 땡기 요래서
I will observe the word of the Buddha. This is the commitment one makes in the offering of one's body. And when one has been exposed to the Buddha Dharma and has vows to uphold and has taken initiation and therefore has commitments, there are many vows and commitments to be observed. With the offering of one's body, the commitment is to observe the word of the Buddha. And in order for the protection of the Buddha to extend and embrace this individual. And in order for the protection of the Buddha to extend and protect us, it is essential that the conditions be present in us for this to occur. And so the 3rd and 4th lines of verse 9 describe these conditions. I'll leave behind the evils of my past and ever after turn my face from them. These two describe remorse and restraint. Remorse and restraint, when present, allow for the purification of karma and the mental afflictions. Without them, and this is the line between the two, without them, it isn't possible. With them, it will be possible.
다 다니죠. 한다 뭐만 남설라 말한도 내 미기와 제바들라 미기와 제바 임바 캐네 아니 배 샤바다니 딕미도 삼 교바체바 아니 다 신중이네 디디바 임바 뭐시 마신 디바다 녀바 교연 가리마 딜 교연 임바 딜 디바 임바 뭐시 마신 신중이 디 지금에 산데 dom선 오다 어디니 인지미지 참고를 해서
The first, remorse, is a recognition that in countless past lives, one is responsible for non-virtuous actions. Acceptance of these actions as non-virtuous actions, a recognition that, oh, these are mistaken actions, these actions were not right, is essential. And so too, regardless of the gravity, perceived gravity of the negativity, accepted, understood as a negativity, restraint from engaging in any fault like that in the future. This restraint, these two together, remorse and restraint, are indispensable.
아니 답에 진중에 그 통문면다 삼에 수수 semana 담제색도 뒷나시 정원제 말한도 디바 제바들 너로 켈렌데 아니 교바체 다 진중 아니 내기다 디바 되게 미치 사베다 동선 치디 아니 산제게 깔아 녀바데 차와를 랑게 디바데 다와를 해서는
An example found in scriptures is of accidentally swallowing poison. And once one has inadvertently, carelessly swallowed poison and realizes that it's now in their gut, they'll regret that and do whatever is required, drink whatever medicine, perform whatever treatment is required to correct the situation. And so is this commitment, this remorse for one's past actions in their negativity. And then to having recognized that one swallowed poison, make sure that one won't make that mistake again. This is like the restraint that we must have. With remorse and restraint, then one is able to purify one's negativities.
그래서 왕주도 담아 전주선배 도마시도 아니 전주선배 라바나 림바신도 라바지 배 두선에 내배 전주선배 도마 그 켈랭기 디지도 배게 간다를 배 군죽 돈 간다 전주선배 도마 켜말라면 랑이 배 군죽 지나가 나와나 싶어 랑이 두기 있는 켈랭여스 재산비 두고 거다 뒷만시 하나도 전주고 냠내 로정고 냠내 지고 요래 있나요? Now,
for those of you who have been initiated, have taken initiations, these commitments described in the way of the Bodhisattva are essential, are a must for you. You must observe these sorts of commitments because in the process of taking an initiation, one says, now with the mind of enlightenment, I will engage in the stages of the training in the mind of enlightenment. One's bodhisattva vows must be conformed to, and one must be committed to doing so. Now, if one hasn't been initiated, nevertheless, in one's mind training, one has now made an offering of their very body, and for that reason, one is committed to observing the intention of the Buddha.
Lugi cheba pyo de tsara da dine kar cheba pyo wasna da de tube cheba lo tube cheba so jiwa lo tube cheba da yi mebe cheba sa da tube cheba sa odeta tube cheba de pyo re so.
Now, with the offering of one's own body and the practice of having done this, as one has made this sort of offering, then in the future, to fail to make good on this offering is a fault and a transgression. And so this section is completed, and we move on to the section on making mentally emanated offerings.
Oh yeah, that is 주 쳐봐 세리다 하나도 예주 쳐봐도 단 예주 스톤 하나도 지금 미세나라 라는 지역 수수비 냠내 집에나 가도 그게 추이치 거야다 도로 닝바 도로 거야다 싸와 그런 거야다 계좌 그런 거야다 되네 사야 동야 죄야 가리 거다 저기 맞아 수수 가리 고기 여반 나신다 군절에 쳐봐 표야 되는 예주 쳐봤어요 그래서 수수 미세나는 야와 커버 쳐봤어.
Now, these mentally emanated offerings are actually of the class of offerings, of ordinary sorts of offerings that we make in our daily practice. These are the very offerings that are familiar in the sense that when we dress and when we wear jewelry and when we make offerings of food to drink, or rather food to eat and drinks, libations, and these sorts of offerings, these are the ordinary sorts of offerings that may be made daily. These are mentally emanated offerings, and these are our daily practices.
Oh, yeah, that is 주변 쳐봐들라 대타 빼져나는 장가지요. 장가 중리주지 장가 잡이어래 손으시. 다디 아니까 단다디 추유다 지도로 나사 겐 시제. 추유지 지도로 제 나사지 겐지 시제. 왜? 아니 나사 겐지 아니 티다 매도 뼈다 쉐스가 살아들 쉐시. 아니 드메사시 강보 독스 어중이들의 송열에서
Now there are 12 forms of these mentally emanated offerings, and they are the offering of bathing, of drying, of wearing raiment, of wearing jewelry, of perfuming, of flowers, of incense, of feasting food, of light, of grounds, or rather of inestimable mansions, of parasols. These come to 12, and they are the mentally emanated offerings.
Oh, to say that I'm what dinner and true down said that true did any that you go on Zawa together. That's true. True combo to teaching bar. Seji Sewater, the Jemba, Kawa Yon, Mudiv, Jala, and Teba Terror, Sawadi, true till I announce the subject that I'm a true Keva, that true subject digging and Zawa the response.
These are bathing, drying, dressing, adorning, perfuming, flowers, incense, feast, light, palace, parasol, and these are first presented in verse 10 as bathing, bathing as a mentally emanated offering. The root verse here is verse 10, a description of bathing, a bathing chamber excellently fragrant with even floors of crystal, radiant and clear, and graceful pillars shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls.
Oh, that's that kind of Trugan and that kind of dinner true to the Trugan care. Trugan care and Trugan care dinner and two chair that two is like that. And it true that Namshad, the my shake was that Trugan care de la young and that's a peasant Mendan Madame Sunda Yore. And you Suzuki Tone, true, Chashi, Mendra, your response.
First, in the offering of bathing is the production or the generation of the bathing chamber, the bathhouse. And there are various presentations of this first offering. They vary, the presentations vary between different scriptural sources, and they also vary depending upon the category of the class of Tantra too.
오야 다 단단 가서 추기 되게 라면이 다 지난 가서 추체디 유대 수수게 메다 요인도 단단 라면이 추치단데 안디 유나도 좀 비자나가 투수라면 제야단 초가서도 단도 담바 초가서도 단도 담바다 추 망제 아니 라면이 루시 송신 지기요 제가 라면 루고 두가 제단에 대해서 쉬고 인송하지
Each Tantra class presents the offering of bathing and the bathing house in its own way. We will take as our point of departure the unexcelled highest Yoga Tantras. And when we go to private homes for the purification and ritual ceremony, we take as our point of departure the highest yoga class, the unexcelled highest Yoga Tantra class. And so I will present this in that light.
다 간다 추체에 저다 간다 군조라 아니 그게 믹스에 추체 거야 이제 칸요 말에 군조라 교인이 바강가 세차를 군조라 그 추네 다 줘야다 맞추는 쪽과 차야게 근데 저 칸요 말에스 이내다 추체 거야 돼 가르스나 아니 마음속에 교이 니모 그 레다 니모 티바다 티바도 좀 다야 지도라 아니 군조라 시주 연구실이 시주체네 아니 추체네 랑 티바 타바 체게 오 되게 냠네 레송지
Now when bathing the Buddhas, obviously there's no real need for Buddhas to wash as they have eliminated all defilements and all stains, and it isn't as though if they weren't to wash they would become dirty. So why is it that one washes the Buddhas? And the reason is as a means for purifying one's own karma klesha, one's own karma and mental afflictions. In order to purify one's karma klesha, one serves the Buddhas, attends to them, and does so in this case through washing.
오 도시다 간다 말아서보다 나랑 수술을 용화 예순 되고 용 류지고는 사베 되고 나지고는 예순 되고 다들 베티벌 즉 장가자 못해야다 내가 좀 되고 되게 왕게 나랑들 아니 동행 베 장을 내버 냥고야 되는데 요 된도 다야게 치돌라 아니 추 그냥 매디 도나 베 근데 지고야 그 지단 그 주기 냠내 지단 망고 송요래 송지
Now, as one's negativities of body, speech, and mind, these three doors of negative activities have led to uncountable non-virtues that we have accumulated. And as a result of these, one's sufferings will be untold. In order to purify these innumerable non-virtuous causes for suffering, one is encouraged to, especially often in the sutras, engage in these practices of washing.
도시다 지단다 추 지도자 뭐이나 당보 추사게다 초강나도 추 거기 초신 추 지사게다 거기 라마다다 산제 창세 보고 컨트롤도 그거 초 신가가 주간 주 대리시 아니 주간 나왔대 주 대리시 수부고요 인들 아니 주간도 깨고요 주간 깨고야 돼 아니 추 지사게다 배당 가져다 깨배는 대리다 배는 오마다 야갈다 산제 코나도 수대를 뒤즈들라니 지금 lumba기 깨보도 저거 배나다 대리를 슈 찍치고 요바이나 아니 그런 lumba기 친구 루수기 차네 아니 깨보 나는 레버다 감상 배 매도점 아니 샤브도 추제 아니 지내 샬라자들 지고로 와 어디게 루수도 틈바세네 아니 상계다 저주세마 탐제 탐보주 대대슈 아니 슈사 더 추간 추이체사게 추간다 아니 어디서 그 강바 대 주패니 슈사다 주고고요 어디치들라 아니 추간데 세다면 추간 깨버 제거하고 이제는 이제 레송을
And when one washes these personages, one is washing a very great merit field. The merit field is the Guru, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Daka, the Dakini, and these personages are invited to a bathhouse. And in order to invite these personages to a bathhouse, one must create the bathhouse. And this resembles the custom in India, in ancient India, when during the time of the Buddha, the law of the land, the custom in the land would be for kings when they are invited to and fro for during their arrival to greet them by scattering flowers along their path and by then washing their feet and then serving them food. And so one begins by inviting the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to a bathhouse, and that bathhouse must be a place, in fact, where they may be invited. And so one creates that bathhouse emanated.
That's the Kanga Yari as a Google was or Tinashi Gugu Nashi and then Suzuki Kunjola Yang, Tele Power and the Truan, yeah, and Tweet and Namsa the Pia and Telepu Tapas and Mern Pugu, and the Logi Kidu Sambayang, and the Hagi Shake on top, but then the dog better shed and Dilla Novachini, and the Truganki and the Trugana did by two Shusag, they did it to Shusag Chit. And
we know of our own practical needs when we go to a spa or a bathhouse. The nicer the spa and the bathhouse, the grander. And so certainly then when the guests at the bathhouse are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it would be appropriate, would only be a palatial bathhouse. And this is the place of residence for the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and where the washing and then the dressing in the finest raiments happens.
And told the Geran, Gebuchi, Gerana, the taught to Gebi to Yoba. And the Zuki Narola, Rumbuch and the Modi, the town, the Zuk gain Yoba today.
And just in the unexcelled highest yoga tantras, in the visualization of the abode of the deity, the residence is an inestimable mansion with 4 walls and 4 doors and the 4 torana and the gates and the private room at its top, and inside pearls and other precious gems lining the walls. Just such a palatial bathhouse is imagined.
More than Tangi Kawas, and they sing the Totten Maiba, and it was wishing Mudida said that Palamda Mudi in the Gimbata, the Kawachi woman, Dumata, and it chill over that, the Jew, that Mambuyo, the Zukanga, wishing the Himba, and it killed Treaty Zembu. That should be music killing Yoba and the Sashi Selk Himba, and it been. Cellar so what they make better on the Ninju, because you by Yidu, did they go? Oh, yeah, and it for the trees is like a tangy. Saji de water, key the test toy or tazzle test ma, and the Rubegi Jamna she did the water as soon as soon.
And then the inestimable palace, bathhouse, the pillars and columns are not wood or stone, but made from precious substances, pearl and crystal and gold, and it's beautifully inlaid and worked, and the ground is gold, and there are blissful pools swirling, and all is exceptionally beautiful. The center of the room is slightly higher than the periphery, the border of the room, and this is like the shell of a tortoise.
오예 다 간다 아니 저게 나로 추시도 그 쇼사게 땐 쇼도 저 아니 뭐 겨우 많이 봐봤어 다 쇼도 지고 생지게 배 젬바 조베르 무친게 이바 데베 타고도 가라 쇼시게 따다 장제도 생겼으면 망고 덴두고 이외에 쇼도 데베 장가매 망고 안데 저러데 야마 패사게 깬제도 저 차상 이어봐 아니 타고도 강한다 배 무친 젬바 아니 데데게 다 간다르다지 먼저 초간을 여번하시 따지 그 계사다 되는 치레다 근데 누가가 여번가 상으로 땅으로 해서
And in this palatial bathhouse, there are seats for the innumerable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they are the most regal seats and thrones for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, lion thrones in every direction, for there are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, countless in number, and there are stairs for accessing the doors, and and all the walls and the pillars are hung in bunting and bedecked in jewels, and all of this in its splendor is visualized and mentally emanated.
배낭 말한도 미도 첨부지 인디슈고 여바이나 아니 다배 주관서 장마 배 자제보 쇼고그로 제단 대낭시 다 딜레 파바가는 수수고 소남사베 신 상계다 전주 선바도 인디슈고 여바이인지 아니 주관대 배 탐해봐 마이바 배 셰카나시 배 자친보 이바 비안배 림부첸다 젠나도 젠바 어딘데 매바친 깨바이나 아니
Now, just as when a distinguished guest is invited, and one cleans one's bathroom in preparation, and makes the bathroom as comfortable and clean and elaborate in its presentation as possible, all the more so when the distinguished personages are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they are the merit field for the development of one's own merit. And so far as these are the most exalted personages with the highest end in mind, one must imagine their residence as nothing short of extraordinary. On the walls, jewels and precious gems, and everywhere the greatest beauty.
어떻게 나도 드린 초간 게 내샤셔 뭐 때에서 망고도 아니 초간 게 제일 비마시 초지 너 내샤다는 데스 저도 담아 데스 야가도 이게 선택도 아니 저한테 데스 담아 나서.
So with that, the creation of the palatial bathing chamber, we will conclude this portion of the class and pick up with this next week. And so now we may engage in our usual question and answer, which I think would be constructive. So what we've covered so far are offerings of common substances, common resources, and then the offering of one's own body. And now we are beginning these mentally emanated offerings.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. So the purpose of visualize the merit field to offer to Buddha and Bodhisattva is to please the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, and by doing so, one gains merit. Is that how I should understand?
Can you clarify your question? Do you mean the visualization of the merit field, or do you
Yes.
mean visualizing the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas as the merit field?
Visualize the merit field,
Mhm.
how beautiful everything is in the merit field,
Mhm.
and making that as an offering to the Buddha. So the purpose of that is to please the Buddha, to please the okay.
Oh, it's clear.
Let me rephrase. Is the purpose of creating the merit, visualize or mentally creating the merit field is to please the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, and therefore we gain the merit from doing so.
아니 초싱 아니 소터비로 디기 아니 그베 기음신디 아니 상이나 장주 심바든서 툭니 어째 제도
소신
소다베디
음
기음신
소신 세다베디 투니오치 직단 지고 말해 아주 초심만 보던데 세다베디 초심이 세다단 다지다 아주 저치루디 사이 라르는 세우용으로 와 저치루 가도로 초심 세다베디 빼게고요 아니 루지당 소신다가 세다베 게고요 다디나 카리어스나 초심이 세다면 초심이 세다베디 아니 파강가로 다 가져유는 코드를 빼는 산제를 비베 산제를 소신 차단지 세다고 라마를 미는 소신 차단 세다고 이단을 미는 소신 세다고 최종은 선제 강화 미고도 소신이 신 가져유는 코드를 소신을 세다면 되어 뜬 거. 거기다 거한 비기 나와 또 나게 걸 방음지내로 라마이 담 산제 차서 바오 칸도 쉬어서 뭐 망고여로 대지 강화를 초시 차단을 뭐 땜셔라고 서 띠띠미에 가려서 또 고바 가려서는 아주 거기 군조라 초도 야가다 누가 인지 모양이야 강가 군조 찍고 뭐 찍고 이봐 강가 그 접선 군이 이봐 어 대대기 똑바게 지도라 아니 소신 공 아니 소신 파를 소신 땜고라고 서 소신 공과 저 대래 단단 아주 취지도 뭐 이제 미지 소신 때 정말 말이다 뭐 소신 젠다는 약속들어 이내는 수수 때문에 라마 때문에 쉬어요 접수 군도 때문에 쉬어요 라마 망고 때문에 쉬어요 그래서 수수 때문에 군조 때문에 산제 때문에 쉬는 되게 거기서 두고로 와 소신 세다에 대해 고난 믹스고 같이 해서
Now the merit field as a visualization and practice is part of the 6 preliminary rites as it is presented in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And there the treatment is extensive. There are visualizations of one's merit field and also the body mandala that are presented extensively there. But in the merit field as a practice itself, the visualization of the merit field is visualized in high resolution with each group of individuals, or each group with Buddhas and the gurus and the tutelary deities and the protectors, the lineages of these individuals, and then they are crucially dissolved consecutively, one into the next, and this dissolving of one into the next, is the important illustration of the absence of any difference in quality or significance between these in their lineage, that all are equal and the same, and they compose one precious gem containing all gurus. This is the merit field and the visualization of the merit field. As one performs the offering of washing, it's certainly excellent to visualize the merit field. However, one is inviting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and may do it with particular concentration on certain individuals. The practice of visualizing the merit field is its own separate form of practice too. Did that clarify anything?
I'm sorry. I
얘는 인지게 돌아 라본라보 아니 아주 라본라보 아니 고그래. 그래서 at speaking as the interpreter, because I think that there'll be a helpful clarification. I ask Geshe-la's permission to speak as interpreter. They're two similar terms, field of merit and merit field, and they sound as though they're synonymous, but they're different. The field of merit is more descriptive. The field of merit simply means one's parents, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, those individuals who, when one respects them because of their importance to an individual and their kindness, one will accumulate merit. The merit field, that is merit field as opposed to the field of merit. The merit field is a more technical term with a narrower meaning. And the merit field is this visualization that Geshe-la has described. So merit field is a particular practice. It's a narrower idea. The field of merit is more general.
So if merit field, if visualization of the merit field is a part of the 6 preliminary rites, so that means it is a way for us to accumulate merit.
네, 아니 속신디, 사대비디, 아니 저를 저기 낭세라.
소신 세대 봤어요. 사주고다.
In one of the sections of the 6 preliminary rites, petitioning the merit field is one of the rites. Yes.
소신 세대 베디고 그런 베스. 냠네 차상치로. 그래서 뭐 소신 세대 베디 배는 라메 조치고로와. 가제다는 랑기셈 디 라마디 아니 바게 통화다. 근데 셈버 숨직이죠. 근데 셈버 숨직도 곰. 아니 셈버 숨직 되기 전에 아니 바가다 계속 군두가 뭐지. 그래서 가다다 미셔바지 소놈 로직의 사기나 소신 곰는 소놈 사와 있는 이마진 사도야. 그때 네가 돼야게. 미세게 계주 주제로 어떤 데 네가 얘기해서 제가 공단 미라래 아니 우리 간다 셈 숙침보지 보고요. 아니 건단 간다 겁내 누가 침보 얘기요. 또 들으시라서
The petitioning of the field of merit, one of the preliminary rites, is a whole practice unto itself. It is the practice of visualizing one's very mind as the guru, and the guru too is the three individuals, the three individuals, the commitment being, wisdom being, and samadhi being, these three. And then all of the gurus and all of the protectors are one essence. And when this meditation is undertaken by the power of this sort of meditation, the merit of one's virtuous practices of a year's time, a year's worth of virtuous practices, with this visualization of the three individuals, one is able to accumulate a year's worth of merit in a single day. And it's a practice that requires great keenness of mind, and it's a practice that with that keenness of mind yields great results. It might be called a triple being. Dorje Sumset, or the triple Vajra being.
간다고 다 냠낸 지도자마다 간다. 냠내 아니 남는 냠내 로종 냠내 간다. 도도스 찍도 체예요 냠내도 싫어.
아니 상라 냠낸다 아니 로종기 아니 냠낸다.
남는 냠내서 간다 소티.
네 dorje Sumset.
dorje Sumset 되니게 되배전에 도시 상태대로 아니 거기 남링 되배전에 통화 제대로 저 남링 근데 로종도 냠내 전에 통화 넘버 10 대로 통화 두배 오고요. 라마로서 제 라마로 로다 다들 남링 코로나 로서 잡고 뒤로 다 가지고 거기 남링 수주 예사게 남링 최초 숨지 나서 라마도 공부와 라마들 로서 도와주지 오직제 그게 찍어 미직다 주제 네 인가라 통화하다라서 통화는 인가라 저기 왕이 두병 알아 두병 나서 어디 상태 됐더라 네 뭔데요라서 재산 고도 순간 상대죠.
투비 왕뭐 라이데단 다쳤던 거지.
지버. 두병. 초 두고 넘버 때문에 두병고. 롱구 넘버 때문에 도시창. 아니 랑라 디니기 뭐지도 넘버 때기들 랑되게 랑게 최대로 남았대. 다들 랑는 소리나는 제로 뒤에요. 그래서 거기 수주 남아도 공부로. 남아서 뭐 있는 공부.
Now, in the practice of the secret mantrayana, in the practice of the triple Vajra being, you have concentrated in one triple Vajra being the practices of the mantrayana, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, and the mind training. All those concentrated into one in the triple Vajra being. Now, the triple Vajra being is Vajradhara as Sambhogakaya form in the syllable tone, and then the progenitor of the close lineage of audition of the given tradition for us in the merit field, central will be Chetzong Kappa. And then Chetzong Kappa too is in the form of one's own close teacher, spiritual mentor, guru, from whom one has heard the Dharma. And these three are incorporated in the triple Vajra being. Now, today we have made an offering of our body, and the offering then commits us to obedience and observance of the directives of the Buddha. And the Buddha inevitably commands, generate the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta. And so becomes our commitment, the generation of the mind of enlightenment.
That's I Chanjusen Jazz or Trion Summer, the Nimakashi, not the Chumos said that this summer, Sanji Kamadu, which I was on that. Suzuki, Kandar Chanju, send the Tibajaya, Sosaya, and the Gotu, and Chanju, and Julia Jeva chair. The Kandar Mijik, Paju Mission Budget of Kota China, Midig is any level the tissues. Tangi Chigis, me Pajungo de Narumaro, Yangimaro, says until the Jangaranzo. That's it for the Yamnesi, and the Chishu map. Chigis and Chishu Chiba, Marato Yamena, Chiala, Parchi Chishu Chavi or response.
But it won't do if tomorrow, if we say now, well then, I will obey, I will follow the command of the Buddha tomorrow or the next day, but not today. That as one has made the offering of one's service of body beginning today, that would amount to disobedience. And so it is for the purpose of purification and the accumulation of merit, so that one becomes able to generate bodhicitta, that one obeys the commands of the Buddha. And it is as though one gathered to coronate an individual, and after the coronation, the coronated king gives a command, and those who coronated the king disobey the command. It would be frustrating for the newly coronated person. And so it is then with no delay our responsibility to follow the command and the intent of the Buddha. Now in daily practice, there are 6 sessions. There are the 6 sessions, and they are 6 sessions of generating the mind of enlightenment and meditation upon emptiness. And with the ritual and practice of the secret mantrayana, these are obligatory 6 sessions of generating the mind of enlightenment, 6 sessions of meditation upon emptiness, and failure to engage in these sixfold these meditations is a fault, a transgression of the gravest kind.
체행이 건다가 튀는 숨 고매야 되는 건다지 뒤지고 살 숨숨 되는 고매 근데 뒤버시는 미세들이 나요 그래서
Then the shoge and sarsum chick to down and the gonda and sarsum
말은
chick to down.
저게 뒤지고 살 숨체 건다 뒤지고 살 숨체
맞아.
저서 챔버지는 근데 체를 주주 시시 숨체로 와 뒤차들 살 주주지고 살 숨체 뒤 고쳐버체 인국이 살 숨장하더라도 저게 뒤지고 살 숨장 뒤버체 어디에 냐면 생나요 제가 전주선 이마지를 간다 살툭 챔버 고구야래서 어디 걔는 나 너무 싫잖아 걔는 그래서
Now, the responsibility for observing the sixth session yoga this way is complicated by our busyness, and so this adjustment has been made where the three sessions of the first 12 hours of morning can be practiced in one moment, one time, one period. In which the three recollections, or three times over, one brings to mind one's responsibility for three meditations on these respectively. So in the morning, where there should be three, at one time you can recall those three at one time. And then in the evening, when there would be another three across the 12 hours, at one time you recall all three. And so you have the six recollections of all six in these two moments, one in the morning, one in the evening.
Geshe-la, thank you so much. What is the difference between samaya and vows?
Domba. 진짜 domba seriedida 아니 담색 도르지 담색 seriedigi 해바르가르레
들어다 도버세데 미티죠 송아들 도발을 봐. 우선 도버스 좀 그 란디 때문에 센 잉마죠. 도버스도 도버 간데 미티죠기 랑이 빵제를 미팅 쪽에 내가 말이야 송아서들 도바제 그래서 다들 도바단 같이 그래
도르지 아니
담직서 또 담직서도 뭐 다랑이 켈레마데 다바 채버지 그래서 지금 딱은이 백개와 말다 그래서 그게 저 여기네다 삼로 땅땅 그잖아요 수수 켈레마데 다다다다 채버들라 담직시 하서 딱 말한 스케일에 맞게 맞아와 제바들 도바제. 근데 데데 스케일에 맞게 내가 마용하다 배 숨투가 제바제와 데라 단지. 어디에 지듯이 이 개와 말해서
Now a vow describes one's upholding, or rather abstaining from what one has committed oneself to abstaining from. Upholding one's abstention from certain behaviors that are contrary to one's commitment. This is a vow. And the samaya is not, they are not exclusive. That is, they are not mutually exclusive. That which is a vow and that which is a commitment, or rather a vow and that which is samaya. But the samaya is the exact, it is the true implementation, the correct application and execution of one's commitments. It is doing correctly what one is to do. Whereas the vow is the abstention from certain class of actions, the samaya is the exact execution or application of what one is to do, and they aren't exclusive of each other.
Geshe-la give us an example.
Perna, Pechishana, Pechishana.
If somebody
What
else
is it?
has one.
Pechishana, nothing.
배시는 먼저 빼는 산지기 제바여와 제바 나오는 신지 제바 켈레 버저와 그는 켈레 버디 담지세 그래서
켈레 버디 담지
켈레 버저 산지기 두 제바 나지 수수 켈레 버디 담지세 다 제바들의 마게와 제바들의 개 마게 제바세는데 계기도나 아니 샤과치기 당 아니 뒤도 제저와 뒤도 아니 도바스 그래서 밤직스도 좀 켈레 고야 들어오지 도바스도 켈레 받을 로바칭이 되었지 어떻게도 상당히 해서
For instance, there are prohibitions according to the Buddha. Certain things that the Buddha has prohibited. When an individual accepts to observe prohibitions, that acceptance is a samaya. Then the active non-transgression of that prohibition, or should the prohibition be transgressed, the mending of the transgression, this is the vow. So the acceptance of the prohibition would be the samaya. Then supporting the samaya is the vow.
So, thank you for different Tibetan Lama had taught to make offerings of precious things in order to help the students reduce their self-cherishing. And so I made an offering of some precious stones on my altar, and since hearing the teaching, I understood Geshe-la's most recent lesson about offering common things. So, although I made a sincere offering of these precious objects, now they're on my altar, and I have sincerely given them, although there is a tiny bit of pride in having given the gift, which is just as taught might happen. So what should I do now?
아니 라마 식이 가레스 아니 랍자가리 교나 손세나 아니 수수기 아니 수수 다페 아니 잘락지기 잘락지 아니 렌탄 제와치 아니 저거 그 고비 겸신디 수수기 Dr. Zimbello di 충루다이 제도 저거 부거레스네 아니 칼롭 된 나선 제자니 칼롭 디나네 아니 얘기 소소기 조상 감아야 아니 렌진기 렉지 부샤요 아니 데 부샤네 테스 나게 테스 또 나게 테스 계속 아니 계시기 숨바나신 나게 테스 계속 아니 계시기 아니 다크 마송에 쳐버디 푸고비 겸센 계신 게바 송송아 제상 단단히 아니 잘락디 아니 푸샤네 단다 가르치고
어디션 쳐버 퓨세로 예 퓨어 인세로 퓨어 인세 쳐버 퓨가 곧 쳐버 셰로나 퓨어와 제단다 계란을 간다 가서 되게 라이트 가서는 예 퓨어 인세디 대여스 근데 그 거기 시에서는 부족이 시에서 세저로 대여 말았어 그래서 계란을 잡아서 르마다는 부족이 시에디 용마로 왔어 제단다 끝나가지고 배도 차샤바 이나스 미지기 수족 선별로 마통으로 잘라서 친구지 표시하는 안에 표도 얘기했다도 좀 산이 꼬라져니 예 표교도 대대면 되지 딱이로 와 내든 늘 미신다 라고서 왜 이렇게 키우고 그래도 예 표교를 나스라고도 와 드디 좀 많이 쳐봐 오늘 표백이다 새로는 도둑 말했어 제가 수족 표에는 lö당 표도나 아니 수족 쳐봐 차기로 손함도 도구로 왔어 딱 쳐봐 표가 균생이 가르나 군조도 이해하고 군조 이해나 라고 손함도 도구로 왔어 그래서 군조 쳐봐도 시해버 거 시리 랑 lö당 표도 거래서 디지털선 딱 뒤에서 봤다 된대기 고용 또다 망고도 얘기 아니 다 다고 마술을 쳐봐도 표가 있나 여러 되게 저는 영화 말로 왔어 제가 변치하고 이거도 좀 송구야 됐어 되지를 해서 망고 참아
So evidently the thought, I offered these precious stones, remains with you. So that remains with you, and evidently the part of the offering that doesn't remain with you, that isn't present now, is enjoy this offering. The offering to the Buddha, to say, I made this offering, enjoy this offering. It's that part, the delight in your offering, that would be absent insofar as when there is possessiveness that remains, when separation from that which you have given is not entire, like when someone may make an offering and then the next day come back around to admire their offering and point out that the offering they made, and I made that offering. Insofar as the possessiveness remains, that possessiveness means that the full stock of the merit that one could achieve isn't achieved. And so, so it is essential to be able to fully part with the material that you've given, so that you don't identify with it anymore. And then it may be enjoyed. And when it's enjoyed by the Buddhas, then it becomes a merit garnering for you. And so it's just generally the case that when we make offerings of common resources, the bonum vacans, that which is the vacant good of all, when it is made as an offering, there'll be no possessiveness that creeps in.
저 저거 표현을 랭게로 와. 저 표현을 랭게다. 저거 표현이 거의 이게 대대면도 다 자사 야보지를 샤도면도 산이 대대면도디 저 비행기 랭게 말로 와. 그래서 네 예주 수수가 네 표현 있어요. 나게 수수스나가 신자를 하듯이 아니 그거에 쳐봐도 상마지 말어야 내가 친구 열었어. 난 쳐봐고 가르치중 가르표이나 봐. 표시도 상마지 표시하고 있나? 아니 수수쌤도 저하면서 표현이나 아니 지바 차그래 쳐봐 차그래 라는 손님들 톡을 해서 내샤 뭐라는 좀 있어.
Now, when making an offering, when we are still concerned with, after making the offering, concerned for the offering, when we look to see and take pride in the offering we made, then the separation, we haven't fully parted from that which we're making in an offering. But we think continually of our own role in the offering, and the attachment, the involvement of attachment in the offering prevents the offering from being constructive and actually an offering that garners merit for us. And so to make the offering in its entirety, to part with it thoroughly, makes the offering the practice of generosity. And so we'll stop here for today as we past 9 o'clock, and recite our closing prayers. We'll recite our closing prayers and do so with the best intention you can.
Lume mare je don do wa du nande jave ombo da ju ji tema sumbe sera kudo ya jave yanje serwe je tembere wa kuza ma ji jo nyene rube kenam ye ji jo ragi chi shin tobe lam ji ne shuda sewe rangwe tabi ji Ye mba seje ne gawe temba yure zenju ji temba rinjen choje majaba chabyan nyamba yure chode ne ninje jembe yira kewa ye kende teje sewa jeba cho seje gawe mejun tele ne le ju chanju lamji rimbe yang Tade namge yila pede ji, yawe zeba rindu jangyo ji, ransan drube tuyen druge ji, sera seje medam mime gun, sera kundu yawe naba yi, namda lamdan dewa magyu ji, ganze tego chola shuje ji, suishin rula tumba deyi ji, Tuten namgi tato roje jing, tashi gyanso chugun kagyu ji.
From my 2 collections, vast the space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings have eliminated adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths, never be provided in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dagi jini sabe yewa di dendan ro akun la kambe Chebara jesu lo zan rabai tembe nimbo ringe seje cho Kanre rawe kove shingande dendan dewa malu jove Chere se wan tenzin yaso yi shabe sidi balu ningu Chabe bawo jita kemba na kunu zambo deyan dejinde Eda kunji jesu dalo je dewa deda tamje ratu Tuzon shebe dewa tamje je mowa kama chodu ngabade Agi jewe zawa digunja sambo jeje ratu mowa ge Chanjo senjo rinpo je ma je bana je 제와 냐바 메바야 고네 고도 배우쇼.
I dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. In a land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful generous Itinthingyato, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious Suskan ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Thank you. Good night. Nope. The body is not our own body. It's now the body of the sacred three jewels. Good night. Good night.
Yeah.